Okay, so let me begin by introducing myself. My name is Becky Scott. I'm the Information Manager for the School of Health and Social Work. You may be a student from HSK. You might also be a student from LMS. So the purpose of this session is not to go through the principles of literature searching, which you may well have already experienced with me in one of your modules anyway. The purpose of this session is really to highlight some of the features of PubMed and kind of do a bit of problem solving if your search is not going to plan. So you've already come up with a PICO strategy or a spider strategy. And this session is more about what to do if it doesn't quite work or what the different features of our PubMed. So we're going to look at simple searching, just like the basic bits and bobs. And then we're going to look at advanced searching, so combining terms in PubMed, excluding terms in PubMed, using truncation in PubMed. I'll show you how to go about accessing the full text in case you're unclear on that. And then we'll talk a bit about the MESH, the medical subject headings, which if you're doing a dissertation piece of work or a literature review, your supervisor will be expecting to see that you've used them. Then we're going to talk a little bit about exporting your results and then downloading your search strategy so you can always replicate it in the future should you need to. So before we go to that, I have this rather jolly photo and it's going to kind of make more sense later. So what I'd like you to do, though I won't be able to see it right now, is in the chat, describe how you would hashtag or tag this photo if you saw it, for example, or you took it even on and you shared it, say, on social media, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. How would you describe it? And this is going to help us understand the medical subject headings later on. And if you've already been to the CINAL session, just skip over this bit. So I'm going to come out of my slides now and go on to PubMed, while hopefully you kind of describe the image in the chat. So first of all, how do we access PubMed? So the good thing about PubMed, and I'm sure you've become familiar with it if you are currently in practice in the NHS, it's a completely free website, so you can just Google it if you want to, Google PubMed, and it will come up. If you're already using the other databases, then you might decide you want to access via online library. And it might be a good idea to do that if you are in a situation where you can. So I know some things are blocked in NHS Trust, so you might decide it's easier to go just in the sort of open interface. But if you access it via UH and you've logged in with your username and password, then it will help you when you go to access the full text of articles. So to get to online library, when you're on StudyNet, which is what I'm on now, you'll see it's the second link in. So when you're on Canvas, there's a link in the top left-hand corner to StudyNet. If you click on that, you get this kind of bar across the top of the screen or selection of tabs. If you choose online library, you get to the place where students are usually very familiar with searching for books and journal articles, but we're focusing on academic databases for health. So you can find PubMed in the A to Z list of search sources here. If you scroll down, you can also find it on the short list of databases with relevant tutorial videos under the Health Toolkit. So let's just quickly summarize what we see on this page other than my face. So this link is to the Library Skill Up module, which is really great to self-enroll on. You get announcements of when these types of trainings are happening. You can contact us by posting a question in the module chat. If, for example, a quick thing about referencing, you can also access the Study Success Hub online to book one-to-one appointments and so on. So that is all under that first link. But we are focusing on the specialist databases. There's also all of the contact channels below. So under specialist databases, the first link there is for PubMed, and you'll see that there is a link to PubMed tutorial videos from PubMed, but also a detailed video tutorial created by me. So when you first get to PubMed, it's a really simple kind of Google style search box. So it is quite easy one just to do a simple search in. For example, two concepts that you might want to be appearing in the same paper, click search and PubMed will run that search. You can see it's got 266 results, and you can see that they are kind of bringing up papers of relevance. So particularly this one, because it does say health literacy and heart failure in the title. But the likelihood is you're going to want to do an advanced search. So with PubMed, you do that on the advanced search interface. And if you're on the kind of home screen, the button is here. If you are on, and you've already done a search, the button is here. So I like my searches to be numbered correctly if I'm doing a search. So I'm just going to delete the one that I've just done so that I'm starting with number 1. And then in PubMed, it automatically defaults to all fields. So you might decide you want to search your term in all fields. The benefit of doing that is that it will search really widely for your term. But if you want, sorry, that just distracted me, that little bleepy thing. If anyone else has access to that admitting people, please do it for me, otherwise you'll have to wait a bit longer. So if you search all fields, it will map to lots of different fields. So not just the title and abstract, but it will try to do the medical subject headings. It will try to do the substance field, all kinds of different fields that may or may not be relevant. Or you can opt to do a title and abstract search, which is usually a good idea because then you're more in control of what the database is doing, but it will depend on the topic and how vast the literature is on that topic. So sometimes at the beginning, you might just be scoping your searching. So you might decide, okay, I'm just going to do all fields for now. And if I'm finding I'm getting lots and lots of irrelevant papers because it's mapping to fields that aren't relevant, then I'm going to sort of wind it backwards and just go for title and abstract and then add in the medical subject heading separately. So I have a search that I'm going to use for demonstrating today, just so that we can get to grips with how you search PubMed. I'm just going to copy the first line and we can talk about it a bit more. So if I search this in PubMed, I have lots of different terms. So I've got, would the person who's unmuted, unless they've got a question, remute themselves, please? Thanks. Okay, so you can see first time is in speech marks because that's an exact phrase. So this question is all about nurses' experience in the field kind of thing. So it's all about novices, newly graduating. And so I want to talk a little bit about truncation, but we can come back to it again later. So in PubMed, it will not be able to run a search if you truncate a word. So firstly, truncation is when you chop off the end of a word and replace it with the asterisk. So you get multiple word endings. So if I truncated new, I would be looking for new or newly. However, in PubMed, you cannot truncate to 3 characters. It would also bring in lots of irrelevant results because there might be lots of words that begin with new that are not relevant. So minimum of 4. If it's a word, if it's a small word like new or men, that could also be mentoring, mentorship, rather than male patients, then don't truncate it, write out the alternatives. But generally speaking, 4 characters and then the asterisks will be fine. So these terms are all combined with or because they all mean a similar thing: inexperienced, first time, new, preceptorship, and so on. And because I specifically want them to be about nurses as well, I've said this and nurses. If I first search it in the title and abstract, I obviously selected that drop-down menu. I select add, and then my search appears in the query box. And then all I need to do is click search. and that will run the first line of the search. And you can see it's generated 61,000 results. Let us compare then if we left it with all fields so that we can get a sense of what difference there is in volume of literature. 166,000. So you can see there is more than double if you choose all fields than if you choose title and abstract. This can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. It just depends what you're looking for, how much literature there is in the other parts of the topic. It's just something to bear in mind. If you're not getting much by using title and abstract, try all fields, for example. I'm just going to delete this one so that I can kind of keep an orderly thing for like structure to my search. So if you want to delete something, you choose these three dots here, and then you can click delete. Okay, so the next line of the search then would just be, this one's quite a bit shorter. So the question was, what are new nurses' experiences of working in critical care? So again, I'm just going to change that to title and abstract. So you'll see you can have acronyms, ICU, but just be mindful that every time you add in an acronym, you are risking it bringing in lots of irrelevant results. So you need to be really careful about which ones you choose. So you'll see that was a much larger set of literature, 235,000 papers, and it can be intimidating to see those volumes come up, and you are going to get larger volumes of literature in PubMed versus something like CINAHL, because CINAHL is much more focused on nursing and allied health, whereas PubMed is a general medical database, so it had lots of different literature included. So the part that is about their experiences. I'm just rushing through this bit so we can get to the how to make it better if it all goes not quite to plan. So each time I've run a search, I'm just clicking advanced to go back into the advanced search builder. Changing it to title and abstract, clicking add and then clicking search so that it runs it, and then going back to advanced so I can put in the next line. Oh, have I done all four now? Oh yeah. Okay, so once I have my 4 search lines, you might only have 3 because you are only using a 3 concept approach to your search. 3 or 4 is quite normal. In the query box, we now want to combine them. We want to do the part that is search with and in CINAHL. In PubMed, there is no search with and button, so we manually type it into the search box. So I have to type #1 and #2 and #3 and #4. Click search, and it's going to combine those 4 different concepts together so we can identify what papers it's got. Now it's got 46 results. This one looks good. This one not so good, although it may have a section in it about new nurses' experiences. We'd need to look more closely at the article. Obviously, it's focusing on COVID, so nurses' experience of using ECMO, but because I'm interested in transition to practice or new nurses' experience, I would really need to interrogate the abstract to find out if it met my criteria. So I'm going to talk a bit more about how we can refine the search or improve it in a second. So I mentioned, I'm just going to reiterate this point before we move on about truncation. So a minimum of 4 characters, but if you are using truncation, really think about the usefulness of where you put the truncation mark. So carer like this gets carer or carers, so more efficient way of searching. This would get carer, carers, social care, Karen, parent, health and social care, like all kinds of variations about care that are not about carers or include carers, but it's so broad it wouldn't be helpful. So I really want you to think about where you put that truncation mark. Remember, in PubMed, I couldn't do men with the asterisk because it needs a minimum of 4 characters, but it wouldn't help me anyway because it would bring in mentoring, mentorship, mental health. So it would be too broad if I really meant male patients. So in those circumstances where it is a word that has it is three letters, then you're going to need to write out the variations that it might be, like this, for example. So just to be mindful of where you use truncation in PubMed. So let's talk about the medical subject headings, because you will be most likely, if you're doing master's level study, expected to use them. So for that, we need to go back to the home page of PubMed. And we get the query box, but underneath here is the MESH database, the database of medical subject headings. Excuse me. Okay, so in here, this is a much older website than the upper part of PubMed. So that's why it looks a bit rudimentary. But in here, we will search for any topic that might be relevant. And we'll explain a bit more about medical subject headings when I go back to the slides. But essentially, you want to enter your topic into the search bar. So, for example, intensive care. And it says here, for intensive care, you're going to use critical care. So you click add to search builder and then click search PubMed, and then it will run a search for the medical subject heading. So you'll see that got 65,000 results. When we typed intensive care or critical care, we got 235,000 results. So that medical subject heading has many less results than this, but it would be good practice to combine them anyway. Hopefully the 235 would be a larger set of results when you add in the medical subject heading. You don't know until you've done it, so it's just a bit of a trial and error process. So if we want to make this all one line, what we can do is say the line numbers. We can say #2 or #6, and then we're adding those two different lines into kind of one pot of results, so we can see if it gets any bigger. It did, it grew a bit. So it went from 235,000 to 258,000. So your lecturers will be expecting to see that you've used these medical subject headings. So let's talk about them a bit more broadly then. So the reason I asked you, hopefully the slide will be large. The reason I asked you to kind of create a little hashtag for this dog is because I wanted to show you the differences in variation of natural language. So one person might look at this dog and say, oh, cute dog. Another person might look at it and say, oh, golden retriever. Another person might look at it and say, golden Labrador. Another one might look at it and say, dog on a bench, dog with a smile, happy dog. So we get these natural variations in language. Yes, it's an image, but the same thing can happen with academic research papers. Researchers really unhelpfully don't use the same language to mean the same thing. So just look like new, newly, transition to practice, preceptorship, all of these different things, essentially trying to identify a cohort of new nurses. So within databases, we have these subject headings that are designed to help us identify papers. In the old days, they used to be assigned by librarians, whose jobs it were to do what we call abstracting and indexing, identifying what the papers are about, essentially. Nowadays, it's done by artificial intelligence. So there are AI algorithms that will scan through articles and they will assign them subject headings. So we use those subject headings to improve our search results or to expand them. So these subject headings are organised in a hierarchy, and overall they make up what is known as a controlled vocabulary or a thesaurus, essentially a list of terms organised in a hierarchy. So these terms in PubMed are known as MESH, And here is an example of mesh. So the broadest term is sleep. Underneath that, there are the different things that relate to sleep, so dreams, sleep deprivation, sleep hygiene, and so on. And then you get sleep stages, and the narrower parts of sleep stages are listed as REM or slow wave sleep. So the broader term, and then underneath it sit the narrower terms. So how that then translates into PubMed is this critical care mesh. So when we go to the mesh thesaurus, the list of subject terms, we just need to search for the term in the broadest way possible for our topic. So if we're looking for things about patient satisfaction, we would just type in the search box for the mesh, patient satisfaction. We type in intensive care, it says the term we use for that is critical care, and you can just tick the box and add critical care to your search strategy. I'm just wondering if I could add any more. Okay, so let's see if there's a mesh for qualitative research. So again, we want to go back to the home page of PubMed. So just click on the logo, it takes us to the home page, and then we have to navigate using this menu to the mesh database. And so let's try and see if there is one for qualitative research. You'll see here is the hierarchy. It sits under kind of research, empirical research, qualitative research. If we want to add it to our search, we just click Add to Search Builder, search PubMed. And it will run the search 77,000. And then we have to go through that sort of manual process again of saying this or this. So it's line 3 or line 8. So we just say #3 or #8 to run that search. And then we're adding those mesh terms into our search results. So we are now at 2,166,000 terms that relate to sort of qualitative research, experience, perceptions, and so on. So we've talked a bit about how we might expand things in terms of using mesh. But if we're not getting many results and our search strategy is this line here, #4, UK or United Kingdom or England or Britain or British or NHS, we might need to expand that further. So we might say, or Wales or Ireland or Northern Ireland or Northern Irish or Scottish or Scotland. You could even try specifying a city if you know that it's got a history of researching that particular topic, or a large population group of a particular patient group, for example, clustered together for any given reason. So those are the sorts of things you need to do if you're not getting many results. Think about, so Rachel asked me how many synonyms are appropriate, and the answer is it depends on how many results you're getting. So I had 46 results, but those 46 results might not all be about the topic that I wanted, because it's always brings in some unhelpful things. And there might not be many papers about the UK specifically, so then I need to expand by adding in more synonyms. So there is no way of knowing until you start to do a scoping search. So if I was planning a search for a dissertation, I would go through the PICO, I would list out the synonyms that I can think of off the top of my head. I would run the search in a couple of databases, see what I get, and then I would start to refine the terms. And that might be by looking at the search results I've got and thinking, there's lots of stuff in here, but it's not quite in the UK. So the term that's most likely to be unhelpful there is NHS, because other countries have NHSs. So I might decide I'm going to take that out altogether, or I just search the word NHS in the title only. And not worry about the abstract. So that's just a couple of little ways that you can refine your search that way. So let's look at these 46 again, in case we actually think some of them are useful and we want to take them and use them. So select the item that or items that you think are useful. Having a little bit of a scroll just to see if there's any more that looked. I think that's interesting. About moral distress in nursing, but not necessarily what I was looking for. So again, show more results and more of your results will come up. Just having a look. Oh, I hate it when those really long ones, they've got how many authors? Madness. Okay, maybe I'm interested in this one as well. So I have 2 items selected, but you hopefully have more. And then if I click send to clipboard, I get a kind of shortlist. So I can go to the clipboard page and my 2 papers are there. So I can choose to cite it so that I can have a copy of the citation. I can email these to myself, so I've got the citation, so just pop your email address in there. There's a capture thing down here, and then you can send yourself email. Sorry, I need to go back to the clipboard. You can change how you display these as well. So you can show the abstract if you want to have a quick look at it, if you're looking at it as a short list. So you can see that's the full details of the paper. Now at this point you'll see it now says full text links, find a copy. So you can find a copy at UH or go via the Elsevier link. So if we click on this one first, find a copy at UH. If you're logged in with your UH account, it should hopefully be quite helpful. It's going to be slow because I've got my camera on. There we go. It's taken us to the paper. You can click view PDF, download it, and then let me show you why I've got you here. I quickly download that. Save that. So now if I choose to open Adobe, and then open the document or the article, and then if I click on the comments bubble, which is on the right hand side of Adobe, I then have more options available. So if I just zoom into the paper a bit. So if I want to highlight something, I can use the highlighter, but because I now have the comments box open, I can also change the color. So I find that really helpful because then you can color code through papers. If you're looking for certain themes, you can color code the same theme in the same color. You can add comments in. I don't know what you might write, but you see what I mean. You can add your reflections as you go through the reading. So I think it's always helpful to show you that you don't get the tools here so much in the Google view. So always download it, open Adobe, and then open the document, and then you've got more options available. So we just clicked find a copy at UH, but what happens if it's a paper that we don't have? So in the health databases page, click back to online library. So someone asked me earlier, how do I find PubMed? So it's under this A to Z list of search sources when you're in online library, but it's also under this short list of databases on the health toolkit, click specialist databases, and there is PubMed. But back to online library again. We want to go to our library account. So that bit is over here. So if you click request an interlibrary loan, so I'm just on the home page of online library with the search box, scroll down, right hand side, request an interlibrary loan. Sometimes we're not going to have the journal, so you can get a copy of the article if you've come up against a paywall, if it says pay £30 or of a crazy amount. You just need to be in your interlibrary loan requests. We don't charge for this service, so just click create a new request, read the terms and conditions. If you're happy, click yes, and then here you just need the DOI. So if shall I just pick any old DOI, enter the DOI, and then it will auto populate, and then click make request. So in PubMed, you will see that the DOI is being presented here. but also here. So that can be really handy if you need to request an interlibrary loan. Now, that is how we sort of email the results to ourselves. We can also send them to a citation manager if you happen to be using EndNote, because you might be a PhD student, for example. So in that case, you've got your results on a clipboard, click send to, and then citation manager, and it will allow you to create a file. You see it's just downloaded there, and then you can upload it into your reference management software. One final thing I wanted to show you is that you can download your search strategy. Now, PubMed does not work nicely anymore with creating a little account. So I've given up trying to ever log in and save a search. I always just download a copy. So on the kind of advanced search builder, you'll see it says download. It's not downloading the results. It will download an Excel CSV file of the search that you've got here, so you can remember what you did and then replicate it the next time should you need to.